Welcome to this episode of EdTech People, discussing the past, present, and future of working with technology in education.
Welcome to another episode of EdTech People with myself, Matt Setchell, and my buddy Jack. How are you doing, Jack?
Very well, Matthew. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I am good. Bit of a late night last night, working through on Google syncing at school. Finished at like 2 or 3 o'clock this morning.
Is that Google to 365 or something like
that? So this school is Google and Microsoft, and has got local AD. So we use our Salamander Automate to update AD, and then AD syncs with Entra and Google, and the sync just was not playing ball. And then when it did play ball, it had a lot of stuff to catch up, and it's always very nervy when you're looking at it and it's saying, I'm going to delete 2,700 people. So that's what I was just triple checking what I was doing before that I did that. But been off to SITS last week, which was really interesting. Halo had a huge presence. I know you're a Halo guy as well, aren't you? It was basically a battle between Freshdesk and Halo there, but it's really an odd show to go to because everybody's there trying to sell the same thing, which is unusual. But there was, what was really good there was the talks, actually, really interesting talks. Saw some really cool things in how Halo can answer the call with AI and log the ticket and everything like that. So that was really exciting. And then so been really busy. What have you been up to?
So apparently not as busy as you by the sounds of it. So I've been sort of mainly refining process and task automation stuff at the moment, working on sort of documentation stuff, making sure things like that, the kind of stuff that you forget about a little bit sometimes when you're moving at pace and you've got a lot of different things going on. So we're sort of changing how we're doing that. A lot of the documentation we're changing to like video based instead. So screen recording, because sometimes.
Have you used Scribe? Yeah.
No, I haven't. So similar to yourself, I'm just a Mac boy. So I'm just like Command Shift 5, record and upload.
I'm not a Mac boy.
I thought you were a Mac boy.
I've got a Mac, but I don't know how to use it. The buttons confuse me.
Oh, God. Well, in my eyes, you're a Mac boy. What we find, the video element is when we've got new guys coming onto the team, etc. It's so much easier just to watch a video, pause it, see what's what. And sometimes it rather than trying to write a load of documentation, screenshot X and Y, etc., put some arrows on it, then you can do that. And then, we're preparing. So on Friday evening, Saturday, we're doing a migration from, I think, what do they call it now? Entrust Launch, I think is the official name. Used to be BGFL 365, didn't it? So I think I've mentioned it a few times in the last episodes. That migration's happening. So annoyingly, from what I understand, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, you've got like 2 options. You can pay them to do the migration for you, but you have to give them global admin to do your tenant, or you basically tell them you're leaving, they remove the domain at the agreed time and date from their tenant, then send you a list of logins on Microsoft domains, and you have so many days to basically log in, export the mailboxes, and then import them into your new accounts, etc. That sounds fun.
Definitely. Fun, hard work, as we say, but it's all different. And I think, again, it's just that variety, isn't it? So
absolutely.
And as we were saying just before we joined, I was just saying that it's been really good to see how this podcast has grown as well. And you've had people reach out to you and say that they've listened and watched it, and looking at the figures, those numbers are jumping as well. So that's really good. So definitely think it's something that we're going to continue on with, and you and I have got a little rhythm now of remembering to do it and all that.
It works quite well because my partner is a teacher, and she has staff meetings on a Wednesday. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can put the puppy away for an hour and let So it's lined up quite nicely. What I will say is, we forgot to say it last week, didn't we? But obviously, all opinions, comments, statements, quotes, etc., are those of our own and our own only. Don't represent any organizations that we work for, are part of, represent, or any other potential words that we need to say. This is just our 2 brains spilling out for however long.
Absolutely. Now you've made it sound like we're about to slag a load of people off. We're not. We're not going to do that at all. Not this week, anyway.
Next week.
Yeah, tune in for next week's episode where Matt loses it with the supplier. Is it you? Who knows? So we'll be looking at 3 things that we've just talked about that we're going to cover this week. So there was an article from Arbor around schools and saving money, and particularly around growing your multi-academy. So does that reduce the amount that you spend on administrative cost per pupil? So that we're going to have a look and talk through that, because the results surprised us both a little bit, I think. And then we're going to talk about filtering, just because I think it's a thing that we've both been working and looking on recently. And I know I've been spending a lot of time sorting out smooth walls and stuff like that recently. So that'll be good to have a chat about. And then we're going to kick off talking about send and accessibility. And this again is on the backdrop, I think, of a financial element as well, and something that I think both you and I are quite passionate about. So again, not related to my thoughts or anything, but Casero, who I work for, are headline partners of NASON, National Association of Special Education Needs. And I was doing some training there a couple of weeks ago, and doing training at schools, showcasing the accessibility tools built into both Google and Microsoft platforms that these schools are buying and don't even realize that they've got. I'm talking your reading progress, your immersive reader, your dictation, your live translations, your accessibility tools within Chrome OS for devices. These are all things that schools simply don't know that they've got, and make such a big difference. And one of the key things that schools are thinking about is that accessibility at the moment to devices, and how can they get them out to people. Both Microsoft and Google are pushing one-to-one. Schools are pushing back a little bit, but ultimately by giving somebody a device with all these features, then they are able to access it in the most effective way for them. And that means that they could be able to use tools as and when they need it. And I think that given that access, so everybody's got a level playing field to achieve, is really, really important. But with your experience, Jack, working directly in the schools, are you seeing this kind of stuff being used? Because generally my experience is you talk about it, do a training session, they love it, but then the reality of actually introducing it into lessons and to make a difference is somewhat falling behind a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's basically probably our experience as well at the moment. So I think everyone's really well intentioned and really wants to do these things and show, oh, amazing, we can do that. But actually, when it comes down to it, sometimes it's just not as simple as they want it to be or need it to be in the moment. And that could be for a lot of reasons. That might just be because the technology's failed them in that moment. It might be that other sort of things are happening within the room, like students might get dysregulated, which means then that plan goes out the window. Like there's so many different elements to it. But I think that's a big thing. I think most staff in most schools want to use the technology in these ways. Comes down to the training element. We all know we all have to complete every type of possible training, in September or throughout the year. No one has enough time. Half the time we just watch the videos, right, and then just answer a survey at the end. Have we took on that knowledge? And sometimes I look at it and go, okay, well, the training I have to tick off essentially. Did I actually learn anything from that? And then I think, okay, so when we deliver this training around, say, could be learning accelerators within Copilot 365, whichever area it sits in now. It could be the equivalent on the Google Stack, etc. We can deliver this training. We can have people really sort of locked in and focused. But then when they get given out and go, show us what you can do, it's strong for a week or two maybe, but so much else is going on in all areas of education at the moment that it's easy to sort of slip back and lose focus. So yeah, that's probably my thoughts. A bit of a brain dump, maybe.
No, I think it's very valid, and do you know what? It's something I can directly relate to. So, a large part of my work over the last 6 to 8 months and ongoing is there's about 15 schools and a couple of trusts that I'm working with in a strategic capacity. And that helps, build a vision, a strategy, find out where they are, how they get where they need to be. And a big part of that is actually showing them what's possible. Because if you're talking to them about like where they want to be, they need to know what that destination looks like. They need to get a postcard. I always say, you need to post, wish you were here. Did you know this is possible? And otherwise, they've got no intention of leaving and going there. And I think the accessibility side, is just as important as the AI side, for example, showcasing that. I was at a school yesterday where I was given a demonstration of it, and actually all the AI stuff was nice, Notebook LM, game changer, absolutely. The stuff in when you log into 365 now, the teacher tools, but the one that got the best feedback was Immersive Reader. And that's because they could see an immediate difference that would make to their students, maybe EAL students, maybe those who can't type and input and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's just a crime that so many schools don't know it's there. And I think the gap that it falls through a lot is who should be telling the school. So if they buy into like an SLA where it's strategic, that's my job. But if you're employed directly like you are, is that the Centco? And we all know how hardworking they are and how busy they are. Is it the IT team? Whose job is it in the school to push those things?
And I think it's, again, we've had similar conversations recently around this, and I have different opinions on this to others, I think. But there's an element where you get into IT because you want to do digital, as in infrastructure, cloud technology, etc. So then we have to be really careful with our people in a way that, okay, if we are then asking them to go and skill up on it from a teaching and learning perspective to enable, okay, here's how you do this, here's how you do that. That's cool and that's really important. But we also can't take people away from their roots and their core focuses if that's what they're like, if they don't have a passion or interest in that actual delivery element, that, okay, moving almost away from technical, because whilst these tools are amazing and enable, they're not necessarily like the technical architecture or design or implementation that some people get into digital and IT for. So from a delivery point of view, how do we find that balance, as in whose responsibility is it? Do you have your IT, your digital team, and they're responsible for, the technology that enables everything? Then you have your teaching and learning teams around computing and curriculum. So do you have a lead within that, which is, what's the right term now? Is it EdTech, PedTech? I don't know. I get confused.
I don't know. There was this whole thing that it's not EdTech anymore and it's PedTech, which is a bit of a bummer when you've got a podcast called EdTech People, but
moving on swiftly. So whatever
PedTech People sounds dodgy to me. I don't know if I want to be called a PedTech person.
Anyway, so do you merge those roles? Some people are going to do that really well because they have that passion, that knowledge, like yourself, for example. Other people can do it, but it's do they want to do it, or do we want to skill them up? So whose responsibility is it? I don't know. And I think every organization looks different relative to size, people, team, etc.
So I think it is genuinely missing in a lot of organizations.
100%.
I think it's a role that's genuinely missing. And what you sometimes get is somebody engaged with it as a bit of a project and then they move on, or, particularly middle leaders, senior leaders, if they're not going to get a shot of the headship, then they're going to.
That's it. Those are the people who likely get the role, isn't it? Your senior leadership, your middle leaders, but maybe in a trust more your senior leadership below your exec team, etc.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are probably going to hang around for not as long as others, because they're normally trying to progress in a career path, as you've just said.
It's interesting. Go on, sorry.
No, carry on.
I was just going to say, I was handing over some schools recently to Lyft, and they do
it really well, don't they? They do it really well.
Yeah. And speaking with the different people there, they had a really good spread of roles. and clear responsibilities, and it was a supportive atmosphere. It was really a good trust to hear from, and work with them even just on the handover. And I think that, I can't remember the exact term that they said for their people, but they do have a role which is like implementation and showcasing that technology there. So I think it's definitely doable, and it'd be interesting to see.
I think it's a full-time role. I think it's a unique role. Like, to be done well, it's someone who's got, their core focus has to be that, in my opinion, if you want it to be done well, because that then think you're then going to be following through. You're going to be making sure, as we discussed before, that your accessibility is actually, you're not getting stalled. It continues. Your idea there is you're going to be delivering projects on the ground around the technology use. And to do that right, that's all you, like, certainly if you've got multiple schools under that, that's all you're going to be doing. You're not going to have time to make sure the infrastructure is solid.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got to keep yourself enough in the knowledge of what is there and how things work to make sure that you're able to confidently put out those solutions. So I think, really interesting subject. And if you do want to know more about, in terms of the accessibility stuff, there are really good websites both for Google and Microsoft on the Google and Microsoft websites, particularly Microsoft Learn, the Google equivalent of those pages as well. Check what you've got, because most of them come with the free licenses. So Fundamentals or A1, you can get access to these tools, and have a look what's possible, because there's some really great tech there that you can use instantly to make a bit of a difference. Talking about making a bit of a difference, our second item is talking around filtering. So we are talking about different filtering systems. So it's an interesting, I've just written down the word filtering. So I think to kick off the filtering talk, there are lots of different ways of doing it. It is an ever-changing landscape.
I was about to say it's ever-evolving.
Yeah, ever evolving, not just the content, but the devices and the users' needs as well.
And also how it's enabled and what we have to meet and how we do that.
Yeah. And education is unique for this, isn't it? Because you wouldn't get the same filtering level and safeguarding in any other industry that you would get here. So it's quite a niche area to specialize in. And I think it's interesting to see that like Smoothall, who obviously are a sponsor, they've recently joined up with Cora, which is Australian, which I think has just been taken over by somebody else. But they are, fully focused on this, but they're doing it worldwide, which gives them a really good scale. And then you've got other is Lightspeed American? I think Lightspeed's American.
Don't know. So yeah, you've got people like Lightspeed, NetSweeper, Securely, Senso, Net Support. Like, they obviously do an element up from the more monitoring, I think it is, around.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they do the filtering, but they definitely do the monitoring side of it. Yeah.
So like there's so, like, those are, and we've probably missed some big names there.
Yeah. LGFL have got their own, EXA have got their own.
EXA Surftech, yeah, we use that. Like, so there's a lot of different platforms, and I guess they all do similar things in different ways.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking at it as a project at the moment, and it's interesting to, like, as a full cloud organization, it's a lot easier in one way to enable a thing. But then if you're on-prem, it's like, okay, can we still use the same technology? What other considerations do we have to take into account? I was looking at Securely recently, and, looks like, so it's like cloud-based from what I'm seeing. So you don't have like an on-prem box.
Yeah.
But again, it seems like you do, like, you install like the web. I always say agent, but it's not agent, extension. SSO into that. Brilliant. You can do like DNS stuff. So you can do your guest network filtering. You can do DNS just so, if the extension for whatever reason fails, you're still filtered, etc. But then I guess I've not used the Smoothall for 5-6 years, But again, you've got, is it the S, what are we on now? S16 or something like that?
Yeah, and no, there's different models. So you've got the S5, the S15, the S9, and then you've got plus versions with like 10 gig,
right,
10 gig SFPs on them and stuff like that.
But then they've also got the cloud.
Yeah, so
cloud filter.
It's a really interesting setup, really. And the school I mentioned earlier on with the Google, Microsoft AD. So yeah, this school's it's a 1,600 kids secondary with one-to-one Chromebooks, and staff have got Intune devices. So a real mix and match. It works. But when you're then looking at the filtering, you've got to align yourself with, they call them directories. So you've got your Google directory, you've got your Microsoft 365 directory, and you've got your AD directory. So all three of them, you've got like to, depending on who they're what platform they've authenticated on. Obviously, if it's on a Chromebook, then it's going to be Google. If it's on Intune, it's going to be Microsoft. And hopefully there isn't really anybody else left on AD now. But all of those have got to play nicely together and have got to do it. And the reason why I like still having a box on site is, one, because obviously it's a firewall. You've got that level of control over it. I don't like going to a third party to ask them to take it out on there. Or why would I want another system on top of something when I can have it all in one? The cloud thing's really interesting because Smoothwell are on the box, and it's a really good example of an evolution of a product. So whereas other products have come into it and cloud's been a key mainstay, I think you can look at a couple of examples. Well, Smoothwell have done it well, whereas Impero have done it badly from my experience. You know, they stayed on-prem for as long as possible, missed the jump to the cloud. The guy who ran and wrote it, Impero, John Valentine, he went and started up Senso and did it through there. So they've never, as far as I know, I think they've even changed the name now. They're not even Impero anymore. But they're interested in looking at the way that Smoothwell have done it is that on-prem, because you still need that firewall on there, but then it syncs with the cloud. You know, you've got the browser extension and stuff like that as well, and different ways of doing things. And I think really what we was talking about, isn't it? Because you're looking at potential projects kind of this. It's something that I'm doing all the time as well. It's, I don't know, just talking about that scale of what it's like, because you've got AI now, you've got, you've always had proxies and VPNs and trying to protect the kids from that. You've now got
filtering
devices
at home as well.
Exactly. Exactly. You've got different types of devices, Chromebooks. You've got, you know, iPads. You've got Windows devices, you've got all these different stuff, Android tablets that kids are using, you know, keeping on top of all of that and having it all work nicely, and then being able to turn around and say, well, actually, Gerald over there can access this between 5 and 6 o'clock at night, but other times he can't on this device in this location. It's really complex. And I think what I've been finding recently when I've been talking about it, anybody just trying to say, oh, this website's blocked or this website's blocked. 9 times out of 10, it's not the website that's blocked. It's the filtering, for whatever reason, is being careful in terms of it hasn't identified the user. That authentication of the user that's using the device is key, because obviously you're going to be tied into who's using it and how. And so if we haven't got that, then obviously it will revert back to, this is a worst case scenario. I don't know who you are, so I'm going to treat you as a student. And I think lots of people think, and also like as soon as a website goes down, which you have absolutely no control over, it's blocked. No, it's down. It's not us at all. So
I often find where things aren't blocked, what is blocked is the redirect it's trying to go through before you get to your website for whatever reason. Filtering's, I don't know if we have the solution for the perfect platform. I think they all do things well differently. And I think it's relative to requirements of your organization and
100%.
Actually your estate. If your goal is to go full cloud within a short amount of time, for example, you might choose a different solution that is a little bit harder to set up initially, because you might still be on-prem, but actually you go 12, 18 months down the line and you've got a really easy to manage solution because you've got a single IDP across multiple sites, Intune manage, etc. So for me, it links back into what, as we've talked about before, around, okay, let's make a strategic decision now that is in line with where we're going to be in the future, still enabling what we need to do now, but also making our lives easy in the future. And what we don't want to do is over-engineer a solution. So we don't want to have to build something really complex, which then is going to be even harder to maintain once we've done the planned work to get us to a nice cloud environment. I'd rather have something that we have to spend a bit more time with now, but then knowing in 6-12 months time, because
it's going to be the right solution.
Yeah, it's easy to manage, and actually going cloud isn't hard as long as you just make that decision to do it.
And also it's things like portability as well. You don't want to set it all up on one system, change your supplier. So if you go, for example, from Exa and then over to something like Talk Broadband or something like that, they've got their systems built in. Like, you have to change that entire system, and that has a huge impact on could potentially, because they don't, you can't, transfer export from one to the other easily and do that. And the bottom line is as well, is that we can do everything to protect those kids, and then they'll get their phone out of their pocket and go on what the hell they like.
Yeah, absolutely. We essentially have to tick a box, don't we?
Yeah. Do the best you can.
And that's it. And we do that very well. And then we have to try and educate for when they're not on our networked devices, etc.
Do you know one of the things that I really like with Chromebooks, which I wish Microsoft would bring in, is that on a Chromebook, if you can set it so if a certain Wi-Fi network is in range, it won't connect to any others. So you can turn and say, this is the school's Wi-Fi network. If you can connect to this, don't let any others connect. And it just stops kids using their hotspots on the devices.
Or anything else. Yeah.
But then when they go home, they can still connect to their home.
That's a cool feature.
Broadband.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So
that's a cool feature.
That's kind of like the little things that you get with Chromebooks built in.
Not that we like BYOD or taking devices away.
Oh, they can take the managed devices wherever they want. That's fine. Please don't bring your crap into my school.
I guess that's the point. But then, do we ever see? Sometimes we don't see these devices. That's another problem I'm dealing with at the moment. Random devices from before my time.
Chromebooks to the rescue here again. You just deactivate it, and suddenly they make their way back. So one of the schools I work with, the 1-to-1. If they loan them out, if the kids don't do it, at the end of the day, automatically all those loan ones deactivate.
Just become paperweights.
Yeah, can't do anything about it.
It's a bit like when an iPad's activation locked, and you kind of similar concept.
Exactly.
Conscious of time, Matt, shall we
move on to this article from Arbor? So this article was put in by James Weatherall, who is the CEO at Arbor. I've met him a couple of times. Really nice guy. Love Arbor. Love what they're doing. I'm actually doing a migration at the moment for them, nice. And really like what they're doing. I think it's they've done so well in such a tough market. But this thing. So basically, they have access to huge amounts of data, because they're Arbor, they hold everybody's data in there. And so this information that he's got is the Academy Financial Benchmarking data for 1,254 mats. And he's looking at the admin and clerical spend per pupil and seeing how that varies by the size of the trust. And then basically he's got a link in his post where he said that you can go and see and compare your mat against others on the benchmark. And his assumption was, the question was, does growing your mat actually reduce the amount that you spend on administrative costs per pupil? And I would say, I guess, yes. That's a lot of the talk that goes into
operational.
Operational savings,
so you can focus on the teaching and learning, the safeguarding, etc. The stuff that matters.
And you're told the scale and size that you've got is going to be a key thing to reduce the cost. It's not, because all the companies have done is turn around and put map pricing in place, and it doesn't. They can't afford to do it any cheaper. So he then turns around and says that the data says no. And counterintuitively, the bigger you are, the more a multi-academy trust spends on admin and back office roles. So it says he had the same assumption as us, that bigger mats benefit from economies of scale on admin, but admin spend per pupil is basically flat across all mat sizes, hovering around £450 to £520, whether you're a 2-school trust or a 40-school 40-school one.
Interesting.
And the largest actually spend slightly more per pupil, not less. So I think that's really interesting.
Is that around like process implementation? So it's like, is it that they've just took that school model and turned it, the teams structures you see in schools, and then just brought that centrally? We talked about it a little bit, I think, last time around, sort of the evolving roles piece. And actually, is it because we've got, in some instances, the wrong people? So actually, we've got just scaled up school teams running centrally instead of lean central teams doing things more operationally effective or efficient. I don't know.
And also, obviously staffing is a huge cost, but it could be other costs of managing data sets and of size, which means that they build that up as well. It's interesting that they say that the admin costs per pupil plateau by 10 schools. So 3 to 4 schools, central admin is about £100 per pupil, but it's about 30 to 35% of total admin, whether you're 10 schools or 50. So if you build the center of your trust early and it just builds and builds and builds, it's grown in line, and actually the individual cost, you've got it down as best as you can. You aren't able to do that. Once you've got those processes in place, you will always have to grow those processes, so that the cost will obviously rise, but they won't go down. And obviously it's more people. And he asked a clear question: why doesn't scale deliver? Larger maps build more sophisticated central functions, compliance grows with size, and the core admin work in schools, the office manager, the attendance officer, the reception, is still local. But it's really interesting, and he says that he doesn't think that should be the case, and that they're not, the fact that they're not central teams are growing in cost faster than the efficiencies they generate isn't obviously good and isn't doing the savings. But it's interesting he mentions receptionists here in particular, because I've always turned around and said, why couldn't you just have, like on a help desk, in a trust, one of the first things you do is have a central help desk. If you have a central help desk, you can have 1 or 2 people answering calls and tickets from loads of people in a central place. But
I had a similar conversation.
The same reception.
Attendance, for example, great example. Could we centralize attendance? Again, this is just an idea, and we're not doing this again. This is just my opinion, etc., etc. But like, you centralize an attendance number, and then you have like 2 or 3 people running that for everyone, of the schools, and you implement some of the AI functionality that links in with Arbor, etc. now. And actually, you've got a really lean, efficient operation, and you've probably made some saving and improved service in a way. I think some of that counter argument is actually we need to know the kids, the families, contextual awareness around certain absence. You can't do that if you've got X amount of people looking after thousands of students from an attendance perspective. Those are the sort of conversations that I've had before, which I get. But at the same time, where do you find that balance?
Does it go back to what we were talking before around that specialism that we were talking about in IT? And actually those jobs that people are perhaps doing are still quite general. So, covering so many different areas. I mean, for example, a key one, a trust that I've been working with, centralized safeguarding. And the problem there is obviously you lose that local agency with the students and with the support services around there. And also, actually, it's something that I'd need to read into it. But when I was looking at it originally, it has to be a school responsibility. Like where I'm a chair of governors, it can't be delegated elsewhere. You can obviously have support from a central functionality. But I think if you're looking at things such as, looking at monitor reports or website filtering, you get the context there electronically. But in the so are they using those systems right? You can already see like where you've got assisted monitoring. That's already the model. They don't know the kids, they're already doing that. But I think like with the map setup that you've got now, it's a really interesting that point that it plateaus. You've got to that point where schools don't know how to dial it down anymore, how to save any money. And I ask the question, is the next way to do it AI? Because I generally think that will be the next way.
And this is where I actually think AI actually comes into education. I've said before, I don't think we know exactly what it is, but I think it's more around the back office functionality as opposed to, supporting those elements like we've said around AI on the phone system to then or do some of that auto attendance stuff, etc. We mentioned before around Arbor. I know 3CX has a nice integration with that with some providers. So yeah, it's like AI sort of not replacing roles, but supporting them, making them more efficient, etc. I think that's where we see the AI use case at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the place that you'll see that is in platforms like Arbor, because they've got that great data lake of all the relevant context for the school, all those input points of all the different staff who are putting it in. You've got achievement, assessment, attendance, send, all that in there. And that's what AI is built for, is looking at the data and linking up the patterns. And if you put good stuff in, you're going to get good stuff out.
Exactly.
And I think if you're looking at a trust scale of that, it's going to give you, but it's still going to, whilst it can look at things and give you the bar charts and like interpret them, you need that local knowledge to do it. But it's
contextual awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
The AI can tell you what you want, but you need to be able to sometimes look at data and go, okay, yeah, that doesn't look great, but actually we know why.
And also that's the scale bit of it, isn't it? You don't need everybody putting that together anymore. You just need the people to do it. And that's, I think, where the same is going to be, is that the information, at the moment, they're paying for people to collect and gather information. That won't be needed with AI.
Yeah.
So the savings will be where people are no longer needed to do that part of the role. They just have to do the analysis and the discussion and the action after doing it, which obviously AI can't do. It's not going to go and do that kind of thing. So I do think there will be a really big opportunity for trust to save, but it's like any technology, people get carried away and get excited by random bits of it that aren't thought through, aren't a joined up solution. So you're pretty safe, like with your Bromcom and Arbor, if you've got it built into that, that's your MIS, that's the key thing. That's why Copilot and Gemini are good, because they're built into the platforms that you use. But you seeing lots of other people pop up. And I think I said this before, I read the websites, I'm like, I actually don't know what you do.
I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for the AI and all these random apps conversation this evening. It's so infuriatingly triggering. And I haven't had enough coffee today to handle that chat. No. But I think we're on the same page on that. And we'll discuss it next time, but we always forget what we're going to discuss next time.
We do, which is really bad. We need to get better at that.
We need some sort of AI to tell us what to regroup.
The weird thing is that I use Riverside to record this, and a lot of it's AI driven, and it would, but I just can't be bothered. But if you can be bothered, other people, if you've got questions or comments or feedback,
please let us know.
You can remind us what we've said we'll talk about and you want to learn more about it, then you can email us. So if you have done before, I found out that it wasn't actually working. Technical, who am I? So the email address is mail@edtechpeople.co.uk. So that will email us any questions. Both Jack and I are on social media. Probably best place to get us both is LinkedIn on there. And you can leave a comment on everything else, but we really do want more engagement with those listening. And also you can come and have a chat with me and Jack and freshen it up a little bit. It's good to hear from that on that stage of things. And the wider point for the podcast, there's still the opportunity to do a one-to-one session, like we've done before that. So if you're somebody who would like to come on and have a bit more in-depth talk, then that's cool. Come and do that. It's still there as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the sound of it. We are back in a fortnight, so we do it every fortnight. Next week is half term, so hope everybody has a good half term, and we will catch up in a week. Thanks for your input as ever, Jack. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Matt. No worries. See you soon, guys.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is made possible by our sponsors: Secure Schools, Benchmark, Improve, Prepare.
Reduce cybersecurity risks with expert tools and services built specifically for schools and trusts. Smoothwall, who exists to help keep children safe and thriving in their digital lives by supporting and empowering them and those who care for them in school, at home, and everywhere in between. Take control of your resources. Classroom Bookings is an online room booking system for schools, colleges, charities, and more. Organize your shared resources on your own schedule so users always know what is available and when. And First Pillar. At First Pillar, we provide expert operational and business leadership support for schools, academies, and trusts. Our mission is simple: to help school leaders focus on what matters most, pupils, by ensuring every aspect of school business management runs smoothly, compliantly, and strategically. For more information on the show and our sponsors, visit www.edtechpeople.co.uk.